know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy Jan Ludis, and as you can see, we have another incredible special guest with us today. Someone who I had the pleasure of meeting when I was down at Michigan State University, but someone who is impacting people and her clients in her own specific way. She is a life coach and the creator of the Self-Love Atlas, focusing on relationships, building confidence and self-esteem, and helping people, helping you listening, you viewing right here, right now, with your overall well-being. And I just heard before she hopped on, she's gotten some great testimonials just today. So I can't wait to dive into it with you guys. But whether that comes to you on a mental level, an emotional level, or a physical level, I tell you, our guest today can step into the process with you and help guide you to your progress in your personal and your professional goals. And I'll tell you right now, this is just the tip of the iceberg with what I could have said in this entire intro because she's done so much. But we'll get into all of that in just a few because, guys, I give you Morgan Barbret. Morgan, thank you for coming on and sharing your expertise with us today. I hope I get your last name right.
Yes, you did great. And I'm so happy to be speaking with you, Billy. And I just want to start by thanking you again for coming to Michigan State University and speaking to our high school sophomores. We have like this big conference that is all about boosting the confidence and problem solving skills of high school sophomores so that they can kind of be oriented towards figuring out their futures. And Billy played a big role in that these past couple of months. So we're really grateful for you coming in and helping us out.
Oh, no, it means the world. I loved it. That was my first experience with it. And students were asking me if I've ever done it before. Like, no, they asked me to come. I'm here. And the feedback, I don't even know if you guys got some of the testimonials, but they reached out to me personally, these students, and just, they absorbed it. And it seems like you guys are building such a great platform for them to really build on those skill sets. Every single year, I'm sure every single student comes to you, they gain some nugget of knowledge, whether some gain a ton or some one at a time, it's helping them build a brighter future. But at the end of the day, that's what our entire goal is. So I give you guys so much credit. My lead is 100% leading the way for these students, but you're a part of that, Morgan. So we can dive into that. But at the same time, I want to hear about this Self-Love Atlas. Like, I think that's a phenomenal name with your business and everything, but how did you get into coaching? How did that come about in the first place?
Yeah, so kind of a long story. There's a couple different components that inspired it, but I basically got into coaching because of the loss of a really close friend when I was in high school. So around the age that we're serving at my lead, I had a really close friend who was like the example and epitome of what it means to like offer unconditional love and support to other people. An example that I like to give is there was a time when I was too afraid to walk somewhere by myself. And this man like ran 2 miles to my house just to walk me to the rec center so that I could get where I wanted to go. And my junior year of high school, he had some sort of like aortic, like heart abnormality that nobody knew about. And he passed away unexpectedly. And it obviously when you're that young, it's a shock to lose somebody who is also that young. And at that point in my life, I was, trying to plan out, what do I want to do with my career? We were like achieving our goals together. We were in all the APs, all the sports stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, like all these goals we were planning, my friend no longer can pursue. He doesn't have access to those. And so what I took away from that is that tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so there is not time to settle. Like, now is always the time to figure out how can we make our lives as good as they possibly can be, especially if I don't know how much time I have to do that. Like I don't have time to waste with people that are like taking from my life. I don't have time to waste with like not knowing what makes me happy. We want to figure that stuff out as quick as possible, and not in like a super rushed way, but just saying that it's important. It matters. You don't want to make it to, the end of your life and not enjoy it. So that's one part of it. That's one lesson. And then the other lesson that I took away from it was like, this friend was somebody who always had my back and who played a role in my life that helped me figure out like what it took for me to get where I wanted to go. He helped, not only physically helped me get there by being in my corner and by supporting me, but also was the person who helped me reflect and think through like, where do I want to go and how do I get there? And so when he passed away, I was like, there's a void in my life and in a lot of people's lives where I no longer have that support in the way that I had it. So how do I become the type of person who fulfills that role of support for other people? How do I be the person who is in someone's corner and helps them get where they want to go? And I didn't know how to do that at the time, but that's how I discovered coaching. I figured that that ultimately was the best way I could possibly fill that role in other people's lives.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And every single coach, every single person that does something inspiring to others comes from a place where they have been hurt, have been broken, have whatever the story unfolds. So for you
Yeah.
losing that close friend, he paved a way for you 100%. And I'm sure he's still helping you now, just from that inspiration standpoint. But, whether people are
Yes.
spiritual and whatnot, I guarantee he's still helping you. But in regards to that, you have seen, I know friendships, you're building a course right now to help people with a friend aspect too, and help people in that social aspect. Since COVID sparked, the social
Yeah.
aspect, the social life of so many people got thrown out the window. So you going through a very tough event with a very close friend, as much as you're trying to help people build friendships, it took that of a close friend for a time in your life to really show you who you are. And that's the beauty of it. So I
Yeah.
guarantee that comes into coaching. But with regards to the name, the Self Love Atlas, it takes our friends around us to be able to show us love so we can then love each ourselves, which then is the
Yes.
power to other people, right? Does that spark you?
Yes. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard this before. I think this is really common in like the coach industry, this idea that you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with.
Mm,
And throughout my life and my friendships, I've really seen how the people that I spend the most time with, the people that I hold close, affect the trajectory of my life. So whether
mm,
it's, people who are really not challenging themselves, not learning, or they want you to like take care of them or
right.
solve their problems, like it really who you have around you is going to either propel you forward in the direction that you want to go. If you have the people that are aligned with your values and want to grow in the same way you do, then you're going to be in really good shape. But if you're surrounded by people who are constantly in a victim mindset or are really ungrateful, like maybe you're doing a lot for somebody and you're trying to be the best friend you can be and they're still telling you, oh, you're not enough, you're not a good friend, whatever, like that will not only affect the trajectory of your life, but it'll also affect your confidence and your self-esteem. So
Right.
who you hold close, literally, I mean, in my mind, it's everything.
Hmm. Yeah, you become the people you're around. I think you even said that in an email where I must have mentioned it because you mentioned in my lead. I said it in one of the first groups, but you become the people you're
Yeah.
around because we don't realize how internal that becomes. And
Hmm.
we obviously at my lead speaking to high schoolers and whatnot, but we see that across the board, across all ages. And it could be your
Yeah.
family, it could be your parents for that matter, it could be your siblings. There can be an I want to say imaginary roof over your head because of other people's beliefs on you. But when you
Yes.
surround yourself with the people that have empowering beliefs that push through the roof, that show you there's more
Yeah.
to you that comes, it's exactly what your friend did for you, showed you there's more to life, there's more to you, there's more that can come about if you take the steps towards it. But sometimes people are afraid because, well, if I do this, I'm not going to have that same friend group, or they might get offended because
Yes.
I'm bettering myself, but now I'm better than them. And I'm sure you went through it too, becoming a coach. I did it where I started learning so much more about myself, but then trying to reach out a hand and help other people. And close friends of mine started to fade away because they're like, oh,
Yeah.
Bill's not pushing himself to better, right? You push yourself to better yourself, but the people that fall away, I believe you can still have love for them, but they were never meant to be with you on that next level. If they're willing to
Yes.
climb up the staircase with you step by step at their own pace, it's not saying, hey, see you, never see you again. But it's when you elevate yourself, you walk in a higher frequency, higher energy, which then causes everyone else to elevate higher. And some people just like their comfort zone, they like where they're at, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You still send them love. But at the same time, you have to put yourself first in that regard. You have to be a little selfish to be selfless, so we can be like, you know what, I need to rise higher so I can show other people
Yeah.
there's more to them because I saw more myself, right?
Yes. Yes. And as you were speaking, it was reminding me of one of my favorite like metaphors for like leveling up your friendships, which you use the staircase metaphor, but I like an elevator because
Mm,
when you're leveling up your friendships, when you're growing, it's as if you're stepping into an elevator and the people who are on that floor, sometimes the doors close. They can
yeah.
decide to get on the elevator later, but it's like that moment of fear
Mm.
that you're going to be alone because you're getting into this new stage and you don't know what's waiting for you on the next level. But when you go up to the next floor, there's going to be new people to find. But it's really hard to get in the elevator because you're so afraid that if I walk away from this relationship that isn't working for me, or this relationship that isn't supporting me and helping me grow in the ways that I want to, then I'm afraid that I'm going to be alone. I'm
Mm.
afraid that I'm not going to have the support and love that I think that I need, even if I feel like the friendships that I had weren't meeting my needs in the first place. Like, I don't want to be worse off than I am now, so
Mm.
I'm afraid to move on. But
Right.
in reality, leaving those relationships or getting into the elevator is precisely what makes room for the new, more fulfilling, more supportive, more aligned relationships that will work for you and will meet your needs.
Right. Oh, I love that elevator example. And it's true. The doors will close at some point, so
Mm-hmm.
wherever you end up, take a step out, see what the newness brings to you, learn from it. And then if you want, keep getting on the elevator, keep going back up. Never goes
Yeah.
down unless you tell it to go down, right? To go
Yeah,
back to
right.
the old habits and back to the old routines. But with you saying that, Morgan, it rings a bell in my head. The second time around when I went to Mile, I know you weren't able to be at that one, but
Mm-hmm.
a student raised his hand. It was one of the last questions I was asked. And I don't know his name, but I love the kid because it was such a great question. He asked, "How do you know when a goal is unrealistic for you?" And
Mm.
I sat there, I go, "When your
Good
goal is
question.
a phenomenal question." I go, "The only person that can tell you a goal is unrealistic is you, because it's on
Yeah.
you to show the rest of the world that it is realistic because you didn't give up on yourself." I said to him, "Where does that come from? Like, where your question? What sparked that for you?" And he said,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, I have big dreams, big goals, but everyone tells me that I should do something else. Or I should go this way, or the dream I should follow this instead, or do it later in life." And I walked that path. When I started pursuing the speaking and coaching and whatnot, everyone told me, "Oh, Bill, go be a policeman and firefighter, and then later in life step into that." But it wasn't my calling. I knew helping kids, this was it. And so
You and
he
me
said,
both.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And this kid, he explains, like, "Well, my family, everyone says this, like, oh, maybe just do it later in life." I said, it's on you if you want to believe that. But your goal was given to you for a reason. It wasn't given to them. You will have people that don't believe in you. You'll probably gonna have the majority of people not believe in you in life. But that's completely okay because they can only believe in the goals that were given to them in life. If you have a goal that is in your mind right now insurmountable only because someone else told you it was, it is on you and it is your destiny to bring that to life and show them how real it is. I think the example I gave um, was there was some cross country kid in the room, and he raised his hand and asked a question about running. So I connected the two questions. I said Roger Bannister broke the 4 minute mile, and the second he did
Yeah.
it, a week later, 10 other people did it because he showed everyone how real it was. Doctors at the time, scientists at the time, believed if you ran a mile in 4 minutes or less, your heart would explode. And he does it, and then the rest of the United States and the rest of the world follows in suit. So I connected that for this kid and his unrealistic goals. Like, you're the only one that can tell you that. But connecting you right now, Morgan, that's exactly like this elevator example. The higher you rise, the more you believe in yourself because you took the steps or
Yes.
stepped into the elevators more so. Yep, go for it. Take it and run with it.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm applauding what you're saying because it really, like, the relationships that you exist in will cause you to believe that that's all there is. Like,
Mm,
this is what friendship looks like. It becomes normal, like with the running example. Oh, it's not normal to run a 4 minute mile. But if you decide that that's what you want to strive for and you tell yourself that it's possible and you're looking for it, that's the only way that it becomes possible. So if I believe that it's possible for me to have more supportive friendships, if I believe it's possible for me to have relationships that lift me up,
yep.
I have to believe that before I can look for it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And once I believe it, then I can go out and find it. Otherwise, I'll be too afraid to step away from or divest any of my energy from my current situation.
100%, right? And you mentioned, we're talking on belief system right now. How often with your clients coming up to you, do you find underneath it all is a limiting belief or a negative belief, or they don't see themselves? Because I find, we even talked about it at my lead, I believe, but I find
Yeah.
that's always the root of the problem is the lack of belief or limiting belief. With the clients that come to you and the people you're helping on all these different levels, how often do you dive into that in sessions, or does that pop up more often than you believe?
Well, I second what you said. It's
Always,
never not been the case.
right? It's
Yeah.
so true. I even have clients in their 50s and 60s and whatnot, and it's fun in a sense where you get to see someone believe in themselves again, but you have
Yeah.
to take back that curtain essentially and realize, when did you stop believing in yourself? And it could have sparked
Yeah.
when they were little kids. So they've been pursuing this route because everyone told them to do so for 50 years now. But there was a
Yeah.
little kid in there. I was like, no, I really wanted to go do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, well, let's go do it. Oh, it's too late. I'm like, who said it's too late? Last time I checked, you're
Yeah.
still breathing. Let's go for it. And then you see someone kind of like come back to life for a moment because you believe in them, which makes them believe in themselves. And sometimes I find this, as much as we just went on, most people are not going to believe in you because it was given to you for a reason. Sometimes you have to be inspired by someone else's belief in you before you can believe in yourself to the level that will get you there. But once you
Yes.
get it, that's like your friend with you, right? Your friend believed in you for more. And then now, he might have passed on, but you have that belief that he gave you where it's like, I can do this. I'm going to follow this
Yeah.
to the end, right?
Yeah. Both when people believe in you and when their actions demonstrate a like higher level of like behavior. Like when somebody treats you really well,
Mm-hmm.
you learn to believe that it's possible for people to treat you well. And when you have a good relationship with somebody, you learn to believe that it's possible to have that great of a relationship. So even just the way that you live your life and the way that you interact with other people can inspire them to believe that better things are possible for them. And that's, what coaches do, but also by being, a good friend to somebody else, a partner, family member, whatever, the way that you exist is going to teach them what is possible for them.
100%. And that's the beauty of coaches. Like you just said, like we get to essentially guide someone or hold their hand to the point where they're ready to walk on their own. And some
Yes.
clients, I kind of like, I say it really straightforward to them, but it's like, yeah, my goal is to never see you again because then you're able to walk
Yes.
on your own. You're able
Yes.
to be yourself. Right. And they're like, well, we mean never see me again. All right, we can be friends, but at the same time, you
Yes.
won't need me every single week or something like that. But with
Yeah.
regards to this belief system and everything like that, you mentioned on your website breaking down beliefs that they are never enough. How do you help someone break those beliefs down to where they realize, oh my goodness, you know what, I'm not worthy, or I'm not worth the
Yeah.
while, we'll say. How do you step into that with a client and then guide them out of that? Because there's so many
Yeah.
different approaches to it, but what works for you?
Right. So you had sent me one of your other interviews, and I heard you speaking about the reticular activating system.
Yeah.
How when we gain evidence for a particular belief, so if you have reasons or evidence for why you believe that you're not good enough, your brain is going to filter out any evidence to the contrary. It's going to continue to look for why I'm not enough. And essentially, breaking down those beliefs is resetting your filter. It's finding ways to look for evidence to the contrary. I personally use a little bit of the work of Byron Katie. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
Hmm.
but we do a lot of like looking at the belief itself, figuring out how true is it actually, and then finding all the reasons that something different than that lack of self-belief could be true. So,
Mm.
for example, if I'm thinking that I'm not enough for this reason. Maybe I'm not enough for like my parents for this, and this reason. Like, oh, I don't keep my room clean enough, or I'm not going super deep here because it's just an
Yeah.
example. Then we're going to look for moments in time where the opposite was true. And then
Mm.
we're going to build up the belief and the ability to find evidence elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so that hopefully we can kind of tilt the scale until your reticular activating system starts filtering for the good stuff. And
Nice.
then you, rather than having to like fight yourself, eventually you're just going to start seeing that
Yep.
it's not true that you're not enough.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it plays on reticular activating system. It plays on perspective and everything like this. And that's the beauty of you stepping in, or a coach stepping in for someone listening right now, because a coach coming in has a new set of eyes, and a new set of eyes
Yeah.
can show you a new set of eyes, but it can show you a new perspective on yourself. So like with me,
Yeah.
when a client comes in and I first question I ask, like, all right, like what are your goals? What do you want to do? What are your skill
Mm-hmm.
sets? What are your strengths? And some people are
Yeah.
very tough at figuring out, oh, I don't know what I'm good at. I'm like, I highly doubt that. I know you know what you're good at because you had the confidence to set up this phone call. So if you have the confidence to set up a phone call, we know confidence is one of your strengths. And just that perspective is like,
Yeah.
oh, you know what, I actually get it. But with regards to people coming in
Yeah.
and having these low beliefs in themselves, I always try to step back with it, where some people need a grander view of themselves. As much as the reticular activating system breaks open to, if you have a negative belief in yourself, as you just touched on, I'm only going to pick up the negativity.
Yeah.
We kind of touched on this at the workshop at My Lead, but you have 80 to 100,000 thoughts a day, maybe even more. So your brain,
Mhm.
your mind is picking up all this information. It's just there's a minute choice happening, negative, 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 and you start to absorb all
Yes.
that in. But when someone new perspective comes in where there could be more to you, now, as you said, the reticular activating starts to shift, where it's now, okay, wait a second, maybe there is more. But if we as coaches step into those situations with people, and let's go back to that moment for a second when so-and-so said this to you, and you had this
Yes.
reaction or this response or this perspective that so-and-so did this, and a new set of eyes can be like, whoa, 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 like they were really short with you because they had told you they had to catch the train. They're not going to sit there and like be
Yes.
upset. A thumbs up just came up on the screen, and
Yep.
so I didn't do that. But so like if sometimes we are so in tune, we play life so close to our face that we miss out on actually enjoying life or not taking life so seriously. And that I feel
Mm.
is when we start to believe we aren't worthy enough because people didn't respond to us the way we wanted to, or we feel devalued because we didn't get the response. But that person could have been going through their entire situation. But you won't
Yes.
know it unless you ask the right questions. And that's where you, me, a different coach can come into play and cause us to think differently. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, the thing that's coming to mind for me as you're describing that is there's actually a concept that I learned when I was being trained to be an intergroup dialogue facilitator, and it's like in social justice education, it's called the 7 categories of roots. And
Mm,
essentially the roots are kind of like um basically experiences that other people could be having in their life that
mm,
cause them to feel like triggered in a situation, like in a
mm,
way that um isn't like doesn't feel equal to the stimulus. So for example, maybe you're having a conversation with another person and the way they react to you causes you to feel like, oh, they don't like me, or they blah blah blah, like this feels bad. This other person's reaction could be based on any number of other experiences that have nothing to do with you. So
right.
it
Yep.
could be, okay, a level of exhaustion. It could be an experience that they had in their childhood. It could be like other stressors that are currently going on in their life. But usually when we're interacting with other people and this affects our sense of worthiness and enoughness, we assume that the way somebody reacts to us is about us.
Exactly. Right. Yep.
But the way that other people treat us and react to us always says more about them and whatever their 7 categories of roots are in that moment
Right.
than it actually says about us. So the way that somebody treats you actually is not an indication of your worthiness in any sense.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. I love that. And it builds on that bigger image I believe, are meant to have on ourselves because as I said, you play life so close to the face. You have a minute perspective of yourself because you
Mm-hmm.
think you're so small compared to everyone else. Or I've got a client right now. I love the kid. His name's Zach. I think I talked about it in the workshop, but his whole perspective of himself has changed after working with me as a coach, which is phenomenal. Not to me, it's just that work he put in on himself. But he came in
Mm-hmm.
having such a small perspective of himself that he couldn't accomplish what he wants to accomplish, couldn't go after it. He had to follow in suit to his family. And then after the work we put in, the work he put in himself, his mind is so open to one, he sees the value in himself, which is he doesn't need someone to give it to him. He has it himself. He doesn't see the
Good for
worth in
him.
himself. But then also he's like, he can go after whatever goal he wants. And just seeing anyone, not just a young person, anyone have that awe of life where it's, oh, you know what? I can go after this. They're
Yeah.
energized to take a step. That's a new belief. So with these roots you're talking about, there's so much information that comes into play that cause people to walk this way or walk that way. But if we look at a
Mm-hmm.
grander scheme of it, there's, I don't know what, we'll say 8 billion people, and there's only one you with your eyes, with your voice, with your heart, with your hair. And you could be a twin,
Yeah.
yet you still have a different mind. There's only one specific
Mm-hmm.
you, which means there is something of value. You are worth the while here. And when we look at that, we don't think we're worth less, we're worth the while. You know what? There's something to me. Why don't I start believing in this for myself? And that's where, as you said, helping people shake their beliefs or try and realize that they are more than enough. It takes someone to ask you those deeper questions. Like, how would
Yeah.
life be like what would life be like if you started waking up every day saying, you know what, it's going to be a great day. Or, you know what, I believe in myself. You know what, I can accomplish that goal. How would life change? And some people, it's so simple, it's not going to work. Like sometimes it's the simplest things that create the biggest impact for you, you know?
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Well, and also like those choices, like you were talking about earlier, they add up.
yeah. Right.
Like if you build a habit of
Hmm.
thinking of yourself in that way, if you build a habit of having this like open attitude of like things can go well,
Yep.
like every time you do that, it adds to your experience and it opens up what's possible for your life. And that's
Yeah.
just like we can't even measure how different things can be if
Yeah.
that shift happens.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. There's so much power there. But I want to guide into the next question I have for you, because on your website, you kind of go over your own story, much like you just touched on with your friend and everything when we did the intro. But you kind
Yeah.
of go over your own story to where you went through a period where it was borderline perfectionism, where you held yourself to very high
Yes.
standards. And it took you kind of stepping out of that to not
Yeah.
just reach those standards, but kind of excel at a peaceful, I guess, restful pace, not just, oh my goodness, I have to do this, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of people with that perfectionism mentality? Because I think 90% of
Yeah.
the world is now, probably even more, perfectionism. How does that pop up for you?
Yeah. Yeah, so perfectionists essentially like we kind of get an idea of what success looks like and we start to think in a little bit of black and white terms. Like if I achieve a full 4 point in every single class in college, then I'm good, and if I don't, then I'm bad. And
Right.
there's not much room for like nuance. And so I really had that mentality, that mindset when I was in college. And then it took me graduating. I 4 pointed absolutely everything my entire time through college. It took me graduating and then realizing that my body, my health was starting to
Mm,
break down because I was pushing myself so hard. I got sick and it took me probably like 8 months to recover. I both had like stomach issues and like just I was getting dizzy and all kinds
mm,
of weird crap. And and I was like, why is this happening? And I realized that it was because I had been treating my body as if it was invincible. I had been
mm,
treating myself as if I was invincible and that I could just keep pushing myself and never hit a limit. But we're
yeah.
not robots.
Yeah.
We're not machines. We're human beings. And the purpose of living on this earth is not just to optimize
Right.
and perform, it's also to live, it's also to enjoy and find sources of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And sometimes pushing yourself overly hard without allowing space for like healing and rejuvenating, it can rob you of those other things.
Mm,
And I didn't realize that until I experienced it myself. And so now when I work with people, I'm really careful to like, yeah, we want to push to help you achieve your goals, but we're also not going to do it at the expense of your happiness.
exactly. 100%. And that's why I love what you do as a coach, because you step into those areas. Because some people, they hire a coach and they're looking for, sadly, an instant gratification, or I need someone to hold me accountable and push me every single step of the way, much like a personal trainer or athletic coach would do. And
Yeah.
that's, with life coaching, it's not the case. It's, we think, I
Yeah.
have some people ask me
True.
the question of David Goggins, who pushes you to your limits and whatnot. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's achieved so much as a Navy SEAL. But at the same time, that's a grander side of life. Like you're pushing it right there. When we need to step into these areas that are underneath, like the belief systems we just touched on, or the roots that you touched on, we really need to take it at the pace that we can only walk. And that's might not be 100 miles per hour. That might be one tiny little step at a time, moment by moment. And with a lot of coaching clients coming in, everyone's at a different pace, but some people are like, no, I want the results now. I'm like, all right, well, what's your perspective of now? Like we
Yeah.
can, one step at a time is now. But if you're looking for, so you work with people on relationships, you're looking for, I don't know, your a marriage when you're single. It's like, well, it's not going to happen in a day. It's like, it takes
Right.
time, right? But there
Yeah.
are people that look at their goals in that sense, where a fitness standpoint, oh, I want to lose 30 pounds by this person's wedding. All right, when's the wedding? Next month.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's very tough. And, but like,
Yeah.
can it be done? Sure, there's definitely ways you can do it. But at the same time, for your health, for your benefit, for your self-esteem, to make sure you reach that goal better rather than drained, as you just touched on perfectionism and 4.0s and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You reached your goal, but the energy was gone. So your body had to break down to get you to stop.
Yeah.
And I walked that same path with my own story too, where in college, I probably had the most anxiety in the world, to the point where I was driving myself to the hospital thinking something was wrong because I built it up so much
Yeah.
in my head. In the hospital, the doctor's like, Bill, there's nothing. You're good. You can go back, blah, blah, blah. But I needed someone
Yeah.
else's confirmation that I was okay to be able to go back for another week, and then so on and so forth. And eventually that broke thanks to other areas of my life truly falling apart so I can see clearly. But life
Yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
break you at times for you to reach that point where your body's breaking down and you can take a step back and realize, oh my goodness, what I've been doing. And sometimes if you don't wait for that to break, because a coach steps in and shows you, oh, slow down. What are we doing here? And you listen. I think a lot of clients, they're waiting for that breaking moment because sadly, we train people, kids onward, to really take themselves out of situations, as you said, to be optimized. That's what I believe school systems are doing now. Younger school systems like
Oh yeah.
elementary, middle school, and high school. Like college
Yeah.
is when, yes, it's optimized, but at the same time, college is when you really, they say, find yourself because you're out on your own, all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's because how you were raised in the school systems leading up to college, you were told a certain way had to be it. And, I can go off on a rant on that. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's just us being able to realize we aren't machines. We are meant to live this life, to be in this life moment by moment, not just achieving these goals at high levels, but to experience the achievement of these goals at high levels every moment. And that's fulfillment. But I know I'm
Yeah.
off on a rant, so I'm gonna pass it back to you. What's your take on all of that, Morgan? I
Yeah.
just threw it all at
Yeah.
you.
Well, the thing is, the school systems, our socialization, our culture, none of the environments that we're growing up in really are teaching us the skills that we need to be fulfilled. So we're taught to optimize, we're taught to push, we're taught to drain ourselves, we're taught to sacrifice. We're not taught to be curious, to trust ourselves and to ask ourselves like what actually feels good to me. We're not, like there's so many things that like are directing us away from fulfillment. And it does take checking in with yourself and questioning a lot of what you've been taught to find your way back to that.
100%. And that's why I love my lead so much. Because it like,
Yeah.
my workshop is able to spark that, but just walking around and seeing the other speakers and seeing these kids interact, you guys did that on a grander scale that I was sitting there, I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what these students need.
Yeah.
This is what people need, not just for
Yes.
at Michigan State or for Detroit or whatever it is. It's literally the world. And because
Yeah.
we train everyone to forget all these areas, so it takes us to really step back into it. All right, what are these other key areas of my life? Not just the GPAs, not just the math homework, not just this. And it's tough
Yeah.
seeing kids nowadays grow to where they are only the surmount of the effect of their grades to their parents. And it's like, oh, did you get all A's today? No, I got a C in this class. And kids, that breaks a kid. Well, what are
Yeah.
your standards right now? And like, I get it, grades are great. You want kids to get into a great college, you want them to get a great job. But in this day and age, more than ever, you can create your great job. That's what coaches are. It's all entrepreneurship at the end of the
Yeah.
day, but people need
Yeah.
to believe in themselves enough to be able to realize maybe there's a different way. And I think parents need
Yeah.
to realize maybe there's a different way to get the most out of your kid. And that's rather than holding them to their standards, these higher standards and these instrumental standards, you lead with love. And that
Yeah.
comes back to self-love so they can love themselves. But more, I know I just threw a bunch at you, but I want to keep the ball rolling with you and your coaching platform and everything. Tell us more about this self-love atlas, because I know you've got the friendship course coming up, but tell us more about it from your own perspective rather than just me saying it. How did that all begin? Obviously you gave us your backstory, but self-love atlas,
Mhm.
just the name itself is incredible. So what is that to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think ultimately, as many other coaches feel, like the goal is to help people maximize or improve their quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought is that if you don't love yourself, you're going to really struggle to like mold the rest of your life to maximize that quality of life. If I don't like myself, I'm going to surround myself with people who don't treat me well. If I don't like myself, I'm not going to take care of my body. I'm not going to feed myself like foods that help me feel nourished and happy. I'm not going to pursue a career that is fulfilling for me. I'm not going to, like anything that could bring you joy and happiness. If you don't have some level of care for yourself and belief that you matter and belief that you are worthy of love, like it is going to be really difficult to make decisions that are loving towards
Right.
you. And so my goal with my coaching, and most of what I do is one-on-one relationships. I'm excited about this program of friendship that I'm building, but for the most part, I do one-on-one stuff. It really is like questioning the stuff that is causing you to make decisions or go down a path that is not loving towards you.
100%. So what's the process like for someone listening right now? You know what I want to reach out to more. I want to see what it's all about. Do they fill out a form? Like, how do they get in touch with you if they're recognizing this self-love piece? They've been missing this. Or maybe they fall into that perfectionism category. Maybe they realize, my relationships aren't what they want them to be. I know they could be better. I know my relationship myself could be better. Or any of the areas we talked about today. What's the process? How can someone get to you and really step into this coaching process?
Yeah, I do free consultations. So I talk with people for an hour. Sometimes I meet with people, we talk for an hour, and they have some sort of epiphany that gets them everything they need, and they don't even need to work together, which is always exciting because, like you said earlier, the goal is for them to not need you. The goal is for them to be self-sufficient and empowered and have everything that they need. But on my website, there's buttons all over the place to schedule a free consultation. We talk. I ask similar questions as Billy does. What are your goals? What are you looking for? How do you want to improve your life? We talk it through, and then I listen. I get a good understanding of where you're at, and then I'll tell you what it would look like to work on those things together. And then you get to determine whether or not that sounds like a path you want to go down.
That's awesome. And now give us some of your backstory too in becoming a coach, because you've been trained by some great people and you've done a lot of certifications under your belt. So tell our viewers, tell our listeners right now about those certifications. And also my other question to that is, have you noticed as being a coach where you learn all this from these people and certifications, but then you kind of craft it into your own thing, you become your own person as this coach? So I want to hear about that, but tell them all about these certifications that you have.
Yeah, so I'm trained by Martha Beck. She is a Harvard-trained sociologist, but she's also more well-known as, she does a column on the O magazine. She was Oprah Winfrey's life coach. She's a coach for lots of Olympians, because Olympians are notorious for like planning their whole life based on one goal. And then when they reach that goal, they're like, what do I do with my life now? Right. So I'm trained by Martha. We study for about a year. We do all sorts of practicum hours and everything for that. Her work is primarily focused on change and purpose. So when people everybody goes through different phases of their lives. And when you are approaching a new phase, so graduating college, going through a breakup, finding a new job, going through some kind of loss or something unexpected happens that turns your life upside down. Like, she is exceptionally good at helping people navigate that change and find their way back to fulfillment when things get mixed up. Nice. So that's cool. And then the other certification that I have is I'm a accredited coach with the International Coaching Federation, which is one standard of ethics internationally. So literally like hundreds of countries all regulate the same way of making sure that you're prioritizing the needs of your client, making sure that you are empowering them, and going in with this mindset of, I want you to have all the tools you need to run your life. I'm not trying to create a dependency. I'm not trying to create a power dynamic. It's always about lifting up that person so they feel as good as they can about themselves and as confident as they can that they can trust that they can run their lives in a way that's going to take them where they want to go.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. So in having all of this, how you definitely are using all of it with all your sessions, but how has it become Morgan's and not something you've learned along the way? Because I feel like that's such an evolution moment for a coach where like I got trained by Tony Robbins and his team, which is phenomenal. But when I came into this coaching world, my goal was to be the next Tony Robbins, which is phenomenal. It's like, and people have said that to me. It's like, oh, Billy, you have the same area, blah, blah. Phenomenal compliment. But at the same time, that creates a roof and there can only be one Tony, but there's only one.
That's true.
So I had to stop pursuing the goal of being Tony. I had to become Billy and do it my way. So that's when I started bringing in more of myself or more spirituality to the mindset or more physical fitness aspects to the spirituality and the mindset, connecting the three. But that's when I realized I had a turning point in my life where, all right, this is different. I need to do it my way. So you've learned from these greats. You have these credentials and everything, but how is Morgan different than the credentials? If someone comes to you, what do they get from Morgan? It's not just what's been passed down the line. I know that's a big question right there.
Yeah, I think that I will do this more in terms of figuring out my own unique way of approaching it as I continue with my career.
Sure.
But I think the biggest thing that's developed so far is just the strength of the relationships, like the personal relationships that I have with my clients. I feel like when we meet, they feel like I understand them. When we meet, they feel like I'm also being vulnerable with them, and we're always on the same level. And it's almost like we feel like we're friends. Like, and I have to be careful about like not always putting on, the friend hat, but people feel close and supported in the way that I always, hoped for, which is that, I wanted people to feel supported in the way that my friend supported me before he passed. And so I think that that's what I bring to the table.
100. I guarantee you that's what you bring to the table. Just after hearing your voice, hearing you're speaking your truth in this entire interview, which I love because that's what I want the guests to do. But hearing that, that's why I said at the beginning, you can see where your friend's belief in you has transitioned and built so much. It's unfolded in such an incredible way. So when a client comes to you, Morgan, they feel that right away. They feel that connection. And I'm glad I asked that because I want listeners and viewers right now, I want you to really take heart in that, because to have a coach that can connect you on that personal way, on that mindset way, on these deeper ways, and really be there. Yes, call it a coach, call it a mentor, call it a friend, call it whatever you want to. But for someone to connect you in that way, that is the person that can hold your hand and guide you to where you need to be for this stage in your life. Right. And that's why I like come back to it, where it's like the goal of the coach is to make sure you make it to the next stage. And I love that with clients because, yes, it could be bye, see ya, blah, blah. But at the same time, when you help someone reach their goal, that stage is done. And a lot of clients come back, hey, that really, what you're doing. Can we set a new goal? And then it keeps going. So listeners right now, it's not just you work with Morgan, you work with me, work with another coach. It's not just you work for a time period. You work to the achievement of your goal, and then you can then keep going up the elevator, as Morgan touched on. You go up the staircase, as I said earlier, because why does it have to stop? When you reach your goal, there's a whole new life after it. And now people listening right now, you can go back a couple of weeks in YouTube. We posted a message on just that, where when you achieve your goal, as Morgan, you even touched on it with Olympians and whatnot, where they achieve it, it's like, what happens next?
Yeah.
I can say that with the people that landed on the moon. It's like when they came back, they were the most depressed people in the world. Suicidal of that, because they just did something no one else could ever do. How do you come back to real life? And that's what happens when we set these goals. We don't think about what happens after I achieve these goals. That's the beauty of having Morgan as a coach, where she can step in or have that connection with you, achieve the goal. And if you choose to, let's achieve another. Let's see what self-fulfillment is at this next level. Let's take the elevator up to level 10. All right, level 10 was cool, but let's go to 11. And that's the beauty of it, guys. But Morgan, I see all that in you. You can see it in your message throughout this entire podcast. So as we start to transition and close this thing out for people, is there a lasting message you want to leave with people? Are there other topics you want to touch on before we close this? We got the time. But is there anything specific you wanted to bring up in this podcast right now?
I just think don't settle. Do not settle. Like, if you want to have better relationships, if you want to have a better relationship with yourself or other people, like, dream it and do it. Don't just assume that where you're at right now is where you're meant to stay for the rest of your life. You don't have to stay there. You can get wherever you want to go.
100%. It's exactly what life's all about, right? Don't sell where you are. Keep growing. Exactly. Keep growing. Life's all about growth. But I love that, Morgan. Tell them, where can they find you? Give us your website. Give us your social media links. Guys, as always, they're going to be in the credits. They're going to be in the YouTube description. But Morgan, tell them where they can find you right now.
Yep. My website is selfloveatlas.coach, and then you can find me on Instagram at Morgan_Barbret.
Perfect. Guys, go check out her content. Her content's phenomenal. You catch a lot of people with it too, Morgan. I love seeing that. But you also have all these posts and everything. You have all these articles on your website that people can go read. I love that. You really provide the value in your posts and your articles. So people listening, if in this interview, in this podcast right now, it wasn't enough, go look at everything else she has and what she brings to the table, because I guarantee you there's a post, there's an article specifically written, specifically posted for you. Go check it out, because it might be the missing piece of the puzzle to help you realize what's the missing piece of the puzzle for myself. And Morgan, with all the work she's doing, can help you fit that puzzle together, but then realize, let's go make another puzzle. It's incredible. But Morgan, I thank you so much for being here. I appreciate those final words of don't settle, because I echo those wholeheartedly. I love hearing your story. Would definitely love to have you on again, because I think there's so many different other topics we can dive into and just provide so much value to people. So I appreciate your time here. But guys, as always, like this message on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button below, share this message to someone who you feel needs to hear it and can utilize it and can help them. Because the goal of Once a Week's entire YouTube channel, as we say every single week, is to reach out a hand and help people. And Morgan's message, having her on here, is to reach out a hand and help you in whatever you're going through, not just to promote a coach or promote a great message, it's to help you in whatever you're going through. So if this video is all it takes, go for it for yourself, but share it to someone who you feel needs to hear it. If someone popped in your mind at one point in this message, share it to them. That's a clear-cut sign they need to hear it too. And subscribe to Once a Week if you have not already. That number is going up every single week, which means we're helping more people. Subscribe and become a part of it. And if you're in need of a coach, head to Morgan's website. You're about to see her links as this credit rolls on. Or head to BillyGLifeCoaching.com. You can set up a free call with me as well, and we'll dive into all these areas discussed today. But once again, Morgan, thank you for your time. It's been a blast, and I cannot wait to have you on again.
Thank you, Billy. It's been so much fun.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it in back bay. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Boo signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock.